Let's now move on to looking at what's called the caring and confronting contract, because this is brilliant. This is David Augsburger who actually produced this, and I think it's excellent, but it is a counsel of perfection. It's aspirational. It's something to try and achieve. And I've given it to quite a lot of parents that I've worked with, or couples that I've worked with in the past. And to the extent to which this can be a contract between a couple or different scenarios, then it really does help to focus into the issues I've just addressed. So it looks something like this, that you kick off by saying, I want to get our relationship right. That's the relational bit. And you're already at that point indicating the outcome that you're looking for. I want to get our relationship right, but there are some deep issues running between us. Okay, so that's raising the issue. So you see it, relationship, issue, and then back to relationship. I want you, or I want to give you a chance to express your side fully, and I want you to be able to hear my side clearly. This is a very mature contract, but see how it works out. And I want to give you the freedom to express your real feelings, and I want you in turn to allow me to express mine. As I said, this is a very mature contract. And then I'll try my best to understand your viewpoint, put myself in your shoes. You probably know the classic expression, don't judge me until you've walked for 3 months in my moccasins. And I think that's hugely important. It's quite difficult putting ourselves in other people's shoes. And quite often we don't want to, because we've got our own position and we're going to hold on to this and not really interested in where the other person is coming from. But to do that, to put yourself in somebody else's shoes, is really important in working through relationships. And I want you to try and do the same for me and to understand my viewpoint, where I'm coming from. And I'll try not to manipulate you, pressure you, or distort the differences between us. And that can happen big time. That's where this whole seesaw thing gets tilted, goes all over the place. But to try and bring that back to a level adult bit. And I want your clear, unpressured, honest view of our differences. As I said before, this requires a lot of maturity, and it's aspirational. It's great if a couple can actually work on things to this degree, then you really will get somewhere. And I will try to stay with the discussion until we work things through to a place of mutual understanding. And that means not just one meeting, but keeping on at it, coming back into the arena to try and work this out. And I want you to keep working with me until we reach this place. Do you get it? It's brilliant. It's such a good contract, and certainly something to work towards. It may be that in working stuff through, you still stay in a relationship. You know, the working through may not work and you may have no more relationship, but if you stay in a relationship, it may not be perfect. And so first of all, I'm showing you a slider switch here to indicate the fact that there can be all sorts of variations on this theme that I'm going to talk about now. Because there's a little sequence here that shows the difference between a poor outcome, potentially, and better outcomes. So we kick off with the sequencing, looking at the 90-10 split, which I'm calling consume. And in that situation, one individual here, or one part of a corporation or whatever, occupies 90% of the space or the relationship. And the person or that part of the organization only occupies about 10%. So there's a sense that the 10%er is being consumed by the big guy, the 90%er. Then you're going to have the situation where both participants contribute, say, 30% to it. So both are way less than they could be, but it's certainly better than it was beforehand. So that's about 30-30. These figures are variable, and that's why I've shown the slider switch to indicate that they can go up and down. And these are just arbitrary figures, but to make a point. So that's compromise, 30-30. Then a 50-50 split. We can see that as cooperation. You know, each is involved in the situation, each is involving about 50% of themselves. Okay, so that's genuine cooperation. And then we move up here to more complementarity, where the whole is becoming more than the sum of the parts. So I've just used an arbitrary 60-80 here, but it could be anything. It could be 70-80, 80-60, or whatever. Do you get the sense of that? That it's just that both are contributing. One may be contributing a bit more than the other at that particular point, and that will vary as it goes along. So we're now getting into complementarity. Then we come to communion, which is a really good union between the two parties, so that each is 100% represented. And the outcome of something like that, certainly when you're moving from complementarity to communing and so on, is that, as I said earlier, the whole is much greater than the sum of the parts, so that you can see it as 1 + 1 = 11, not just 2, 11. So the whole is significantly greater than the sum of the parts. Yep, so we can have an outcome which is less than, or an outcome which is really maximized. We come to the point of having worked through the ability to celebrate working through, because to the extent to which an organization does not work through and have these skills, then it remains a pseudo relationship, a pseudo organization, as Gregory Scott Peck in particular calls it. And that's really important to know, that you can work through, and then you've got a genuine system, because life is always about difference. There are always issues that crop up, and the ability to do this working through is really important in all these organizations and personal relationships. And so there's that celebration, ability to say, yeah, we've worked through. That's really brilliant. And ultimately, having just come to the end of Strictly Come Dancing at the time of recording, this sense of two individuals, and here a man and a woman, beautifully flowing across the floor, and seeing that integration, that complementarity. They're doing the same steps but differently, but together there is that perfect synchronicity, which is fantastic to watch. So what have I done? I've expanded on the war zone. I've taken you through Tuckman's cycle and now the C cycle to indicate what happens in this area of overlap and the negotiation of this space, and when that has not worked out well, and when you've had fallout, etc., and indicating that every relationship will have times when it hits those buffers, if you like, and when there's a sense of backing off one another, finding it very difficult to learn to know how to work through. But here is a way that is very constructive and helpful, and the key thing to remember is relationship, issue, relationship. That so often people major on the relationship and don't raise the issue, so it stays unworked through, or the issue is so important that you go straight for the issue and the relationship is lost. This is a win-win outcome. Relationship, issue, relationship. Thank you.